7, Woodbridge / Whiteside Sharon. We'll just call the meeting to order. Ryan, please take the roll.
Here. Councilor Lehman. Here. Mayor Claridge.
Here. Number 3 is project overview, the engineer and the clerk / administrator. Ryan, do you want to start us off?
Yep. This is the second of 2 public hearings for the proposed assessment for Woodbridge and Whiteside. Everyone should have gotten the assessment letter, which kind of outlined 2 different options that the council is considering. This hearing is basically for the public to express their feelings on the assessment, on the actual assessment before the order is given to proceed. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions about the particular project, but if not, if anybody from the public would like to voice their opinions, feel free.
I got a question on Whiteside. Are they going to remove sidewalks in that project?
Yes.
Why?
No, we're just,
Whiteside is almost brand new sidewalks, both sides of the street.
we're not removing the sidewalks.
I had them confused, sorry.
Okay, yeah, Whiteside is almost brand new sidewalks all the way through.
Just the ones that were ripped up by the gas company, and they have to replace it,
Yes.
so there'll be no bill to the
No
city or to
assessment,
the
yeah.
assessment on that at all.
Yeah.
So on Whiteside, the assessment would be the smaller one?
No, basically the 2 options the council are considering is, and we did come up and look at the sidewalks after we had that first hearing, that they are in pretty good shape, and we would do what we can to save them on Whiteside because they are in good shape. Woodbridge, the plan originally called for 1 sidewalk on the north side. That was the original assessment number you got. In order to do that additional one, it would be spread across everybody on Woodbridge and Whiteside with the intent that the public uses it, so we spread out the assessment that way.
Why are we on Whiteside being assessed when we don't, I don't understand. Why would the people on Whiteside be assessed for the sidewalks on Woodbridge?
Because everybody uses the sidewalks. There's no easy
Everybody
way.
uses the streets too.
That's the only answer I have.
It's all one project.
It's all, exactly, it is one project.
Is Sharon lumped into this project too, or is that separate?
There's a portion of Sharon that's lumped into it too, and they have assessments just like everybody else.
Okay, and relative to widening the streets, for what purpose?
Getting emergency vehicles through, plowing.
Well, plowing, if we enforce the calendar parking, there wouldn't be any problem with plowing.
We do enforce the calendar parking to the best of our
They
ability.
still do it, so it's about time they start towing these cars.
Well, there's a
And they
certain,
make
there's a
messages.
certain process you have to take to tow the vehicles immediately. So, we do the best we can. It's gotten a lot better though.
Oh, yeah, the street guys do a heck of a nice job, I told them that already, so.
But in the case of an emergency vehicle, you can't get a tow truck right there. That's one of the main reasons it's a public safety concern, to keep those streets wider.
And I think it's widening at 2 feet, each foot on each side,
Yeah.
so it's, I think there'll still be a boulevard.
Yeah, there would still be a boulevard.
Under this new assessment, is this new assessment rule going to become ruling for all future projects? So that everybody in town is gonna get assessed for that project?
Well, the council recently changed their assessment policy, and basically what the assessment policy is, it's gonna assess based on the individual project and what goes into it. State statute dictates, because we will bond for a portion of this project to pay for it, which is by far the cheapest interest rates you can get, you have to assess a minimum of 20%. So we had to get those assessment rates to a certain level. Yes, in the past, assessment rates have been, $25 a linear foot in the past, but, unfortunately, that policy was adopted 20 years ago, and it doesn't cost, it costs a heck of a lot more to do a construction project now than it did back then.
Well, you know, I still don't understand how you can charge me for somebody else's sidewalk on the other side of the block. How's that fair to me because my sidewalk's great? That's not fair to me as a homeowner. It doesn't increase my value at all. My value is there as it is.
It's a public sidewalk. It's not your sidewalk, it's not.
One project, it's not this one, that one, and that one. And then with your question on assessments, there are some grants that we do get, like the CDG, that we can't assess people now. But with this project, we don't have that.
Well, that I understand. If you don't have, monies for the project, then we're assessed. But I still don't understand why I'm being assessed for somebody else's sidewalk over here, that mine is perfectly fine. I'm not getting no use out of that sidewalk. Somebody else might walk down it, I'm not. That's not fair to me. That's not fair to me as a property owner.
Not fair,
As an individual property owner, that's not fair to me.
but if what's out in front of your house,
If you took my sidewalk out, I'd gladly pay for it.
Well,
But you're not doing that.
because, that's what we're assessing you is by the footage in front of your house.
I'm on Whiteside, they're not taking out my sidewalk, so why am I being have to pay for Woodbridge?
Mark, let me try to clarify what I think you're trying to say. You're trying to say is that because my sidewalk is not being affected and costing the city,
That's right.
we should not be charged, and so we're saying it's for the whole of Whiteside. So what you're begging the question is, can just the people on Whiteside that benefit from that pick up the assessment? Is that what you're trying to get at?
What I'm trying to say is, as long as my sidewalk is there, and it is not removed and not changed, and they're taking out the sidewalks on Woodbridge, you're saying you're assessing me for the whole project, because now Woodbridge is getting all brand new sidewalks, I have to pay for them? That extra amount of money? That isn't fair. That isn't fair to the people on the Whiteside. Woodbridge has got their own, and they're assessed.
Do you have an engineer's opinion on this?
I mean, from what I've looked to, I mean, it's pretty common to, it was the same point, whether we left sidewalks on one side, both sides were gonna pay. I mean, it's still.
Do we have a past practice? I knew this is the first project I've ever been on, being mayor, so.
I'm not worried about, I'm talking about individual streets. Now, if you took.
That's where I'm at too.
Yeah, but now you're going over to Woodbridge and saying because it's part of the project, I have to pay for that. That's not fair to me. That's not fair to all the people on Whiteside. You're adding another $400, $500 to my tax bill. For what reason?
For no benefit.
That's right. For what reason? Mine are perfect. Assess the people that are on that street.
The benefit would be that they're public sidewalks. Everybody has the ability to use the sidewalks, whether it's on Woodbridge, Whiteside, or across the entire town.
So I have a question on and I'm on Woodbridge, I have a property there. Is there some kind of a master city plan? Because it just seems kind of disorganized to me to have the option of having streets on one side on one street, both on another. It just doesn't seem like you should have some kind of a city plan. You have streets, sidewalks on both sides, or just only on one side on all streets. It just doesn't seem like it's well laid out. I mean, what's your plan? I mean, what's the city plan? Why?
Well, the reconstruction of Woodbridge and Whiteside has been in the city's capital improvement plan for years. The sidewalk issue came out recently. I mean, a 5-year capital plan isn't gonna spell out if we're putting a sidewalk here or a sidewalk here. It's gonna detail it.
Well, I'm just saying is that, for city beautification or walkability or whatever, I mean, obviously I want the least expensive option, but it just seems weird to me that Whiteside would have 2 sidewalks on both sides and Woodbridge would only have 1. It just doesn't seem like it's that well planned out.
Well, we're trying to save money.
Well, understandable, but there's, what about the plan?
Whiteside is newer, and Woodbridge is junk. It's, bad. We tried, we were gonna cut cost and only put sidewalk on one side, unlike on the north side, so when the sun comes up, it melts that one first, because the snow side doesn't melt. At our preliminary hearing, we had a couple residents come and say that they wanted sidewalks because of the safety of their kids. Nobody else showed up to say no, and so that's what we went with.
Well, I think that makes sense. I mean, it's only, $400 or something difference for me, but, I just would like to see a plan, have a consistency. Rather than one street would have one side, that street would have two, it just doesn't seem like it's cohesive, but.
And like Ryan said, it was in our capital improvement plan.
Yeah, I mean,
We have that for every street.
But like you indicated, sometimes it's the amount of money the city has available, and they only have a certain amount, so then that's why you have public hearings, is what do the people want?
yeah.
And so you say $400, is that a $400 one-time assessment that could be spread over 10 years? That equates to $40 a year, $3 a month?
Right, no, that doesn't bother me, but I mean, my daughter lives on the north side of Woodbridge, and I have a property on the south side, so, I just texted her and her husband to see what their preference was, and he said he didn't have one, so he was okay, but the point is that I just personally like to see, like, what is your Buhl's plan? You gave a good example, the north side does melt off, but south time, in the summertime, there's sidewalks there for the kids.
Ryan, originally, when we went out for the bid, we had to cut back on projects, right? We had to cut back the grant location. And one of the things we cut back were the sidewalks.
Correct.
On the south side of Woodbridge and Whiteside, correct?
Correct. So, and then after that, there was cover with snow, so we went and inspected the sidewalks once things melted over on Woodbridge, and they are in pretty good shape. There's some stretches that need to be redone that were dug up by the gas company or cracked or whatever else.
So, I mean, you're gonna remove them at a cost, and then get dirt in there and seed them and all that kind of stuff, I'm assuming? For the ones you're gonna take out on the south side, if you just did a single sidewalk? Or are you gonna leave the ones that are there?
No, the bad ones would be removed.
Yes.
I think all of Woodbridge is bad.
And we are putting sidewalks on both sides.
All of Woodbridge is bad.
Because there was a couple of people that came at our first meeting and said they wanted the sidewalks.
And that's why you saw the assessment letter with the two options, basically asking for in.
And I know I talked to you, but that's confusing, that is the final number? Because
Those would be the final
for the
numbers.
sidewalks, and you just added the whole 40,000 of the assessment, rather than the 20% you said that is state mandated?
Yeah, for the entire project, we need to assess to the benefit of property owners a minimum of 20%. The original number, which was 35 and 10 on the short side, came in at about 21%, is where we came up with that number.
I was just wondering why it showed the exact 40,000 go up on the assessment. It was about 163,000, then after adding sidewalks, it was 203,000.
Correct.
And it
Yeah,
was
the
exactly
entire amount of
40,000
that
for the
additional.
sidewalk.
To repair the sidewalks that are fairly new, plus replace that entire one side, came up to about 40,000. So that was the additional assessment number added, the additional dollar amount added.
The one side on Woodbridge was 40,000.
Well, yeah. Correct.
Because the north side isn't included in that, 'cause that was part of the grant,
Yeah. Part of the original bid, no.
the proposal.
Correct.
Wish the engineer was here. I'm hearing what's being said here, and it should be, where I live, I'd hate to see another part of town and I'd be getting tapped in it. But there is the street, but this 40,000 has nothing to do with the street.
No.
without an engineer, this makes it kind of difficult to talk. Are we under a timeline that we have to take care of this tonight? I still would like to see that south side of Woodbridge get done. Mark's bringing up great points about Whiteside. I have to look at, is there another option?
I think we're running into difficulty. I mean, there's always an option, but wouldn't be my recommendation. My recommendation would be to move forward tonight.
I think maybe we have to have a special meeting. I want to have the engineer here, because some of the questions we're being thrown at here, the engineer designed this, he helped with the application to this, the USDA and everything else, and he was part of the conversations we had. I had a new wrinkle thrown at me tonight that I didn't have, and probably should have had at the last hearing, but we didn't have it. And the engineer here, I think, could explain this to me, so I could go with this, but I still think that it's a good project. I don't have anything with it, it's just about the cost sharing, what I think Mark is bringing up.
One question I got for you. Is this gonna be a standard policy throughout the rest of the projects that you have? That everybody is assessed for that project as a whole?
That lives in that
It's not
neighborhood.
a section here and a section there, and we got enough grant money over here and we got enough grant money over there. Everybody in that project is gonna be assessed as the project is numbered.
Everybody in that project is getting assessed by the foot.
And that was passed by the council.
Grant, Wanless, Culver, Forest, they were all assessed on their properties. I mean, Topio's property was assessed.
Yes, it was.
So I'm saying everything else was assessed in town.
But were they assessed, how can I say it? Were they assessed on both sides of the street and by a portion of the other street?
Well, it was just 20%
It would have
of the project.
been a total project cost that was assessed. It wasn't divided up into this half a block or that half a block. It was a total project distributed among the benefited
Okay,
properties.
that's the answer. Okay, I wanted to hear something like that, and that's why I think the engineer could have clarified this, because he's been our engineer for how many years?
I mean, the norm is Mueller, Seville's,
John.
South.
Well, no, the attorney didn't have a problem.
I'm just explaining.
I'm just saying, go ahead.
Because Bobby was on the council then too. We did those streets, but we didn't put any sidewalks in. Nobody uses them. I mean, what was there, we left. And there was none. I mean, as Mueller and Seville and East Monroe started to develop, we just didn't do it because that's the norm. If you go down south, go to the cities, all the developments, none of them have sidewalks. Go up north of Chisholm in that corner up there, they got all new housing up there, there's not a sidewalk up there. It's not being done.
So we tried to save the taxpayers.
We understand that portion of it, that, you're trying to save taxpayers' money and stuff. It's just that, as long as you've passed the ruling before that everybody's gonna be assessed the same thing as a project, not as a individual street or anything like that, then that's fine. That's the ruling we have to go with. That was the explanation I'm looking for, is why are we paying for another street as long as, any place I ever worked, they never did it by a project. They did it by a street.
Okay,
You
right.
paid only half the street and back through your property, and that's what you were assessed on. The people across the street were assessed on their half, not the whole.
I hate to put you on the spot, Ryan, but the $40,000 that's being spread is to just do the south side of Whiteside, am I correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Woodbridge.
Or Woodbridge, excuse me, Woodbridge. We will not touch Whiteside, okay.
But just keep in mind,
And the north side is not being taxed anything, because that was part of the. So my question is, what I think Mark is saying is, should we look at that we do the south side of Woodbridge and the 40,000 gets assessed to just those properties, see what that comes out to? We may have to have another hearing, I don't know.
I'm already paying for the north side whether I get one or not though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that
that's
doesn't
the
make
way
sense.
it's
I mean, I see, it's a
No, it
kind of a
makes no sense.
catch-22 here.
Yeah,
I'm trying to figure out something that's fair.
regardless, one side of the street wouldn't be happy. But the idea is everybody benefits from the public sidewalks.
Well, then you can go by the fact that everybody in town should be charged for it.
Well, they do. They pay 70%. The people that live there pay 30% of the project. The rest of the town pays 70%.
Yeah.
So the rest of the town is paying for Woodbridge and Whiteside and Sharon. I agree. I don't think we should have sidewalks on Woodbridge, on either side.
I think sidewalks are good because we got a lot of young kids in town, little kids.
I heard that at the
That's
last hearing, and I agree with that.
That's safety.
Jeff, I think you brought that
I
up.
got a lot of kids running up and down my street.
they have to use the street right now. They're that garbage. You can't even push a stroller down either side.
Well, some of the problem is your neighbors are parking on the sidewalk. So you can't drive on, even if you put it in the sidewalk, you're not gonna be able to drive on it. Or push your kid to make him ride a bike.
Well, like I said, this is just a hearing, we don't take a vote. The vote for this will take place later in the regular meeting.
Valley Street looks better.
And,
But if the city ruling is that you go by project, I mean, that's the way we have to go. That's the law, I mean, that's the way it's written. But I'm just here to voice my opinion as to.
and I appreciate that, you've opened up my little bit, and I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But I'm also paying 70%, I'm getting no, I'm getting part of the town, I understand that. But where I live, trust me, I can't walk there, I get to the other end of Woodbridge and Whiteside, so. Further comments from the public on this? Council, any questions of Ryan at this point, or the attorney? If there's nothing else, Ryan, go ahead, Paul.
Well, yeah, no matter what, they're being assessed on at least one sidewalk, whatever option we take.
So Ryan, do you see any other reason to keep this hearing going?
Not unless
We can-
anybody else from the public has
Yeah,
something else
last
to-
call to speak up. Hearing nothing further, meeting adjourned. Ryan, take the roll, please.
Counselor Kuechly?
Yes.
Counselor Lehman? Yes. Mayor Clarich?
Yes, okay, meeting adjourned. Okay, we'll take a couple minutes and we'll have our regular council meeting.
Thank you.
No, thank you. I'll call the meeting to order, the Buhl City Council meeting on 4/20/21. Ryan, please take the roll.
Counselor Kuechly?
Yes.
Counselor Lehman?
Here.
Counselor Carter?
Here.
Counselor Marcus?
Yes.
Mayor Clarich?
Here. Okay, we'll move on to council additions to the agenda. Does anyone have anything? Ryan? Okay, is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Is there support?
Support.
Okay, moved by Paul, supported by Brandon, to approve the agenda. Ryan, please take the roll.
Counselor Kuechly?
Yes.
Counselor Lehman?
Yes.
Counselor Carter?
Yes.
Counselor Marcus?
Yes.
Mayor Clarich?
Yes. Okay, the consent agenda. I just made a mistake on the, agenda will be a little bit different. We are gonna have Jennifer Larson talk to us first before we'll take action on that. I probably should have added that, but I have it on my agenda, so you're ready to go. I'm just gonna do one more item. Okay, the consent agenda, the minutes of the regular city council meeting of April 6, 2021. Claims payroll number 7, $12,500.32. Accounts payable $95,868.64 for a total of $108,238.64. $368.96. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
So moved by John, support by Stuart. Further comment, questions, discussion?
Just a note to the council that a Bait Tech invoice for the cleaning up of upstairs at City Hall will be covered by insurance.
Did they do that already?
Yes.
Yeah, that's great, that's
Plus the restoration work when we get that done, so just so the council's aware.
okay, we have a motion, a second. Ryan, would you please take the roll?
Council Keithley?
Yes.
Council Lehman?
Yes.
Council Carter?
Yes.
Council Marcus?
Yes.
Mayor Claridge?
Yes. Okay, now I'm gonna do a little switcheroo here. Number 5, we're gonna start with Jennifer Larson, who's here with a request for the Boy Scout campground, and she's representing the Boy Scouts. Jennifer, the floor is yours, welcome.
Hi, basically we're having our spring camporee, May 21st through the 23rd, so the weekend before Memorial Weekend. And we always look for kind of a site that we can use so the boys and girls now have a chance to feel outdoors. And we like your location at Stubler Campground because it's right off the bike trail, and then we could also do the cycling merit badge along with using the beach to do the canoeing merit badge. We have a couple canoeing merit badge instructors, and we can provide our own canoes and lifeguards and everything. But why I'm here, one of the reasons is I'd spoken with Ryan on the phone about possibly taking over the campground, using the entire thing for our camporee, and he said to present to you what our COVID plan would be for the campout, and also ask permission to see if that is something we can do. So as far as COVID questions, we follow all the CDC guidelines and everything, and the handout I gave you is what our council had prepared for me as well. But basically, in a nutshell, it's they stay 6 feet apart, or they're wearing masks. As far as tenting, they're tenting with their home unit. Their families have to agree who's in that tent with them, if it's not their sibling, that kind of thing. As far as during activities, we wear masks, like I said, unless we can be that 6 feet apart. If they're doing a cycling merit badge throughout the day, they're going to be spread out, so they're not going to be biking with a mask on. And like even when we sit down for our meals, even if we have an indoor thing right now, we go outside to eat, so we're keeping our masks on indoors. And even at like meetings, we'll tell them to go outside and have a quick drink of water or whatever. And then we, kind of spread out, and we try to make sure troops stay together, like if it's mixed troops that are meeting at something. We just did a merit badge day. And then some of the other things that I wanted to mention is just, we always do health screens before any scout outing. Being the whole protocol of if there's a fever in your house, the whole house stays home. I personally had to cancel scouts a couple months back because my niece stays with me, and she came back from her mom's with a fever, and the troops sat out for 2 weeks. And we decided we didn't want to go back to Zoom for those 2 weeks, so we just didn't have scouts. And there was some band concerts and stuff like that going on anyway, so it worked out good for the kids.
So you're following CDC guidelines?
Yeah, so we're following all the CDC guidelines, and we do with all of our troop-related activities, all of our district things. For something like this, when any scouts show up, they're gonna have to have told me when I'm the check-in person that they went through their at-home pre-health screening, and every single person that walks in has to get the temperature checked. And if there's any issue, they're gone. And that's just part of our protocol.
Just talking about the beach area?
Talking about the campground.
Okay.
Sleeping for the weekend at the campground, basically taking over the whole thing, and if you guys are okay with that, and how I can guarantee keeping it just the scouts in the campground. And then...
Well, you just reserve like anybody else would.
Yeah, and it's been a while since I've stayed there, because I did when my kids were little. But I want to make sure that then it's just us at the campground and stuff, and then what we would end up doing is I tell vehicles they can drive in to drop stuff off and that, but so we're not having people in and out and it doesn't get crowded with vehicles.
Well, safety first, too.
Exactly. Then, once those trailers are dropped off or their load of backpacks and sleeping bags and tents are dropped off, having everyone park at the beach side, so that way it's no vehicles on site, there's not a bunch of people coming and going, any of those kind of things. And looking at your sign out there, and we follow all that stuff to the scouts, there's no alcohol. Even if a parent is a smoker for any reason, they're supposed to go back over by the vehicles to smoke, not near any of the scouts. So I mean, all that we follow too.
So, you mentioned kayaking activities?
Canoeing.
Canoeing? Okay, would you guys need the beach for that whole weekend?
Most likely just on Saturday.
Okay, is that something we have to keep the public out of?
No, it's something that whoever we have down there, if there happens to be regular people that it's like warm enough and they want to jump in Buhl pit because they want to cool off.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I forgot the dates.
Right.
It shouldn't
Pretty
even be-
cool, but
Yeah.
still,
Okay.
it's right before Memorial Day weekend, so it's not,
It's cool,
conceivably some people, I don't know.
right, and that's just it. And whoever's gonna be down there, you know, we're used to being mingled with the public and that's
Yeah,
not a
so,
problem.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
that wouldn't be an issue. Actually, one of the requirements for canoeing merit badges, they have to tip a canoe and ride it back up in the water. And so anybody that signs up for that, I have to give them strict instructions on how much warm gear to pack so they can get warm and we don't have hypothermia that weekend because it's still May. So,
Campfires?
campfires, yes, thank you. That's on my list to talk to you about. Campfires are in the actual campground, camp rings, or the other thing we do is above ground fire pits, which really what that means is some of our troops are used to not being able to like have a campsite, like on the ground, so wherever we camp in fields and stuff a lot of times. So troops have gotten creative and have Weber grills that they bring, and then they have the campfire in that. But anything that I'd send out to them, I'd make sure they know it has to be, if you're okay with it, in the approved above ground settings or in the actual camp ring, and no scorched earth, because that's important as well.
You wouldn't know it by now by the weather we've been having, but if we got some extremely dry and there was a no
Then
burn
there'd be,
thing, we'd have to, you'd have to
oh, yep,
follow that,
Yeah.
and that's part of your training too.
exactly, yes, and totally, and thank you for bringing it up, but yeah. And that is something, anytime the scouts camp, that's something we look at. And all the troops are aware, so they come prepared with 2-burner propane set up for water and food. It's just, it's that, half the time they don't even camp over the, or cook over the campfire, it's that nice feeling of hanging out by the campfire at night, so.
Well, you've seen, the DNR put those ones that are up on the other side of the campground.
Yep.
So they're,
Yeah, and they're, yeah, and you guys have stuff there for it, so.
yeah, we don't have any wood, but you guys could approach ODC across the highway
Right.
and ask them if you could get a wood for the weekend.
Right, and that's not a bad idea, I didn't even think of that one, but yeah, I can talk to the ODC people.
Cause they always got scraps down there. And,
Oh, yeah, I used to work there and,
When do we
my
open
husband
it?
used to be their delivery guy.
oh, okay.
We open it Memorial Week?
We usually open the campground Memorial Weekend. Basically, in the past, there have been some rare instances where we have rented out the entire campground to a group. Since they requested, it should be a council decision, and because we're in the COVID era, I did request a COVID plan, just, even though I think risks are fairly minimal with all activities being outside. Like I said, basically, the request before the council is just to allow that group to rent out the entire campground.
To reserve the campground in its entirety, from what date to what date?
Friday, May 21st,
Starting at what time approximately?
we'll call it noon,
Okay,
to Sunday, May 23rd, and we'd be out of there by noon again.
How many kids?
Between kids and adults, I anticipate about 60 people, and most likely it'd be around 40 scouts, 40 to 45 scouts, I can see.
How many scouts to attend?
Oh, to attend? Typically, it's usually 2 to attend. We have a couple troops that, they have monstrosity tents, and they throw 3 or 4 kids into a tent. And we have other troops that have anything from just a 2-man, that honestly should be a 1 person, but they fit in it, so that's okay, and up to like 4-man tents. And with scouts, we try to, if we have 2 to a tent, we try not to use this, the big monstrosities that like 4 or 5 grown men could fit in just fine. And also, as adults, we like it when there's just a couple in a tent, because they go to bed better, and there's less noise.
and so that you know, we get our protection from the police department, Chisholm and Buhl are together, so if there's any harassment or things going on there that are out of the ordinary,
Yep.
you call the Chisholm Buhl Police Department
Okay,
and let them know that you're renting that and it's approved by the city and get someone to come over the right away so that it doesn't develop into a major.
right, and I appreciate that, thank you, because I know that, within Buhl, I know I wasn't sure who did the law enforcement, but I knew that you didn't have your own police department.
Yeah, but you know.
But I know you get like-
And Ryan will give you those numbers and then, and there's always 911, there's always the sheriff's call.
Yeah, they'll call.
Yeah,
And then,
what other questions do you guys have?
question would be, so it's been a while since you've seen that campground?
Actually, it's been a while, because my kids were like 2, 3, and actually I only had 2 at the time since I've stayed there, but in anticipation of this meeting, me and my husband drove up there like 2 days ago, parked at the gate, and did a walk all the way up and a walk all the way down, so that way I knew what my layout was and I had ideas for questions.
You know what you're getting yourself
Right.
into.
Is that big enough for you?
Yeah,
It is,
and
okay.
we've done stuff like that before, and this time we're combining our area with people from Bemidji, but that's only because all of our troops have shrunk over the years, because they ebb and flow with everything what scouting does. And with COVID, just like a lot of other things, people are like, no, I'm good, we're just gonna do our own thing now. And so we don't have as many kids going out as we used to. We're hoping it'll change, and most of our troops have still, like I said, done Zoom stuff and everything during COVID, so.
Was there any
that's
litter
helped.
up there when you went through? Was
No,
it
actually, it looked really nice.
pretty good? Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure you get a great experience with the kids.
Oh, thank you.
Just have a question for Mike or Ryan. Would there be a legal problem of after they get everything moved in, like closing the gate, not necessarily locking it, but to keep, people are, they drive by, see commotion, want to take it.
No, I mean, it's just like a gate as long as this is locked.
Yeah.
Thing.
That, just to keep the public out, maybe a sign
Okay.
saying it's closed to the public.
Or reserved, or.
Yeah.
Right, and that was one thing I was gonna ask, because if you want, we can make a sign that just says, reserved this weekend for the Boy Scouts, and we can put something up.
Yeah, if you put the scouts on it.
I like that. I think that's great. Yep, that's just
Put that on the gate.
preventive.
Right,
And
That is it.
you're gonna need water?
yes, that was the question I was gonna ask you is, yes, I can't remember, because the barrels are all over the campsite ends, and I couldn't remember if there is water faucet within the campground or not. I didn't think there was.
No, that there is water at the
At the
beach.
beach, is that
but-
drinkable water or not?
It's drinkable, but it's turned off, and I don't know.
Yeah, and I knew it was turned off, but,
We can, if we can get it on, we can get it on.
okay.
Check with Ryan a week before, see where we're at.
Okay, and that's not a problem, because at the same time, if it's an issue in any way, or like if you're nervous about like weather, because we're in northern Minnesota, and I've even had snow the weekend after Memorial Weekend camping with scouts, if that's a concern, I can just put on my flyer that goes out to the scouts that there is no potable water, that there's the lake across the way, but that's it, and that's not a problem. They're used to bringing in the big blue jugs of water, so. They just, as long as they know in advance, I can do that, that's fine, Ryan, if you wanna wait to turn on the water. And you-
I'll check, but if it's not that big, we'll get it on for you, I'm not too concerned.
Okay,
Shouldn't be too cold by then, so we should be able to hold.
Now, I don't know if they'll be doing any construction on that road, but they might be doing Pennsylvania, you might have to come in this side of town to
Right,
get down
yeah.
there, go by that park.
Talk about a lot of
yeah,
stuff.
cause even like since when me and my husband drove through there's a chunk of road that I would have taken to get there, it's blocked off tonight, so.
So, I mean, you'll have to keep on top
You
of
can
that.
just check with me, and we'll.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ryan's on top of
Yeah,
that. so-
and that's not a problem, I'm used to calling him because, we're one of the units that utilize Lake Leander property. One other question I did have is porta john. I know in the past there's been one out there, is that something you want us to take care of, or would you take care of?
We actually just ordered those, they'll be there before you're.
Okay, sounds good.
Once again, double check, just to make sure they get there.
No, that's understandable, and that's what I wanted to ask. And then I was just gonna tell, because I know you don't have like the big dumpster there, but you have the barrels at each of the campsites. But so we don't fill them for the weekend, I was gonna tell all my leaders they have to pack out their trash. Just because I think that's a smart thing to do, so. Do you guys have any other questions for me?
A little conservation there, right?
Exactly, there's nothing wrong with that. But do you guys have any other questions?
Council? you're pretty thorough in what you've covered between you and Ryan, so I'm comfortable with that. It's just, did they have to formally, reserve that then through your?
Yeah, I would just have.
If we give permission here tonight?
Yeah, I would, and then we'll take care of.
Yeah, and then I can just give you a call tomorrow in the office.
Well, let's cut to the.
I do have one more question.
Yeah.
How old do children have to be to join?
How old?
My boy is 6.
6. So kindergarten?
Yeah.
Yep, they can join.
Okay.
Actually, my niece that stays with me is 6. She's happy. She's an official Cub Scout. Because as a kindergartner, they're a lion cub.
Okay.
And then it's first grade, they're tigers. Because the lions started like 2-3 years ago, they started doing lions, so.
Okay. Do you have some contact information you could leave here?
Yeah, actually, do you want to take down my number?
Yeah.
Here. Oh, here. Just a sec. Just in case there was any other questions, I was going to leave you one of my cards. It's my work card, but yeah, totally random. And then I can get you in touch with like the nearest pack and stuff.
Okay.
But it's just my business number and my cell number.
Okay.
I think we're at the point now, is there a motion to approve the preliminary Boy Scout campground request for May 21 through May 23?
Also moving that.
Motion by Stuart, is there support?
Support.
Support by Brandon. Further comment or discussion? Hearing none, Ryan, please take the roll.
Counselor Kinkley?
Yes.
Counselor Lehman?
Yes.
Counselor Carter?
Yes.
Counselor Marcus?
Yes.
Mayor Claridge?
Yes, there you go. So work everything out with Ryan.
Sounds good.
Hopefully this will be a great experience for the kids.
I think it will be, and I think it'll be good for them, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, awesome.
Thank you.
Ryan?
Thanks.
Good luck.
Yes. He does get my number.
We need more people
There you go.
like
There
that.
you go.
To hand it out to each other.
And then all I
Well, it's 15 to $20 too, so that's good. You need that. There's woods out there.
Let's get any other questions that come up.
Hope the weather kind of is halfway normal. Okay, we're moving on to 5A, business, sidewalks, Woodbridge, Whiteside, discussion, which we've had already. Well, I wish, the only comment I'm going to make at this time is I wish that City Engineer Jamnik would have been here, because it would have been a lot smoother for me to ask. I didn't know what questions to ask and what background information and what the history of the city is. John, thank you for some of that. I guess I'm a believer that I'm still proactive on this, and I'd like to see the whole thing done. And so that we can get into discussion, I'm going to make a motion to approve the sidewalk Woodbridge Whiteside project. Is there support so that we can get into discussion? Support by Paul. Okay, I'm open for discussion now.
The only thing that I'm gonna add that, it's one project, people are assessed their frontage of their property, so about it, I mean, you're not, it's going into a pot, paying for the whole project, but when it comes down to it, you're assessed for what you have.
And it's still somewhat shared. That's what kind of made me solidify my support for this project.
And everybody is getting the same amount of assessment.
Yeah,
It's
it's standardized.
That's how it was before. Everybody paid $25 a foot. Didn't matter what you had done.
Okay, it's just stuff, it's good to know. I mean, I heard the comments out there, I know that we have a negative letter on this, not supporting it. I know that there were some comments here. There were still some people that did support it out there. I didn't hear any more things. So based on the first hearing and this hearing, I said that's why I made the motion. Further comment or discussion by those that can, unfortunately.
I'd like to comment on the negative here. Can?
You're abstaining.
You can't ask a question.
Okay.
Well, it has to do with that.
Do with what?
Abstaining.
You have a question for the attorney? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Oh.
Basically. So, this is a letter correct me if I'm wrong, from John
Well,
Marcus.
I don't think you can get that personal.
Okay.
Correct, attorney?
Oh, that's right.
This has to be a procedural question, it can't be a
Okay, sorry.
content
I
question.
won't name names. Okay,
My understanding is Councilor Carter and Councilor Marcus are affected by the assessments, is that true?
Yes,
Then they are abstaining from this and should not be involved in the discussions of this assessment.
discussion or voting.
because It directly affects each of them.
Okay. I'm sorry, I guess that ends that.
it does.
I mean, if somebody else wants to bring up the negativity comment without saying from who, and just make a record of what was said or not said. I mean,
Like I said, I saw everything that, pro and con, I've seen both sides of this right now, and that's where we're at. Comments, Stuart or Paul, that you wish to make?
I feel there was a lot more pros than cons, from the public. As far as the Warner, both sides, that's probably, I feel between the two meetings, I didn't hear too much opposed to this, both sides. Just some of them had question of what street was paying what, or why they were
It was
paying
more of
what.
a cost issue, it seemed to me,
I don't even think it seemed like a cost issue.
or why me,
It's gonna be a cost anyway,
Yeah.
just a little bit more for sidewalks and both.
Okay,
I think it wouldn't hurt to say kind of what was like an average cost and how they could factor it over 10 years and break it down to a yearly and monthly amount, what really is the reality for the residents.
If someone does have a question about the payment and how to pay it, I would ask you to contact Ryan, but yeah, you can pay it in one lump sum. You can pay it over a 10-year period, and I believe there
a
was
deferment.
a deferment if you are a certain age.
Age 65, where it would be assessed on your property when sold,
Right.
which is a way that a lot of people
Right.
up there could take care of that issue.
Kind of, just a quick average is what, 300 to 400?
300 to 400, yeah.
So if you go over 10 years,
It is minimal.
it's $30 to $40.
When you do monthly, it's $3 or $4 a month.
The question for like handicap people, places, can they get an option to have a flatter ramp?
I think we can work that out with I noticed.
Disability rent.
I noticed over on Sharon Street, on one of the sides, there's actually every other house kind of a little, basically it's a ramp down to the actual street. So I believe that's required now that, I know all intersections have to be the ADA compliant, but I believe access to the street needs to be
In so many feet.
in so many.
Ryan, you have a construction meeting tomorrow, would you just write yourself a note to run that by the city engineer?
And they should contact you if they want to get a wheelchair ramp or whatever.
Yeah, and I think in the past, we've worked with different property owners, and just for the public to, information on how you're going to be able to pay your assessment, the options you have will be mailed to them individually over the next couple of weeks pending approval on the assessment rolls.
Okay, further comment or question? Hearing none, Ryan, please take the roll.
Counselor Kuechly?
Yes.
Counselor Lehman?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes. Motion carried. Okay, now we'll go on to 5B, Resolution 21-26, adopting the assessment. Discussion. Ryan, is there anything that we should know before we ask for a motion on this?
Yep. Well, with the council deciding to go with the sidewalks on both sides, that was option B from the last approval, so that will establish that. This resolution will also establish the interest rate for the project. recommendations are to keep it similar to what the city is borrowing money for. In this case, in your packet, you saw a range from about 1.55% to about 1.77. So the recommended interest rate, which this resolution will establish, would be 2% over that span of 10 years should people elect to have that term. The last thing this resolution would do would be to authorize me or direct me to submit this assessment information to the county auditor. So basically, this resolution in a nutshell approves the assessment rolls as presented in option B, along with setting the terms and the payments for the assessment by the affected property owners.
Okay, I will make that motion. Is there support? Support by Stuart. Further comment? Hearing none, Ryan, please take the roll.
Counselor Keithley?
Yes.
Counselor Lehman?
Yes.
Mayor Clarych?
Yes. Okay, now we'll go on to 5C, Special Assessment Deferment Policy. Ryan, just want to highlight that before I ask for a motion?
Sure. State statute gives council the authority to allow homeowners or property owners that meet certain criteria, mainly senior citizens, partial disability or full disability, or members of the military, National Guard, things like that, to basically postpone or defer their assessment until either a qualifying factor is met or until the property sells or they pass. With that said, I do, after talking to the league, I do believe we should have a policy that kind of just outlines the procedure and what puts everything in writing. I took this from the league's model, so this information will again be passed out to the affected property owners in the upcoming letters and how to apply for the deferment and things like that. But as far as this, if the council is okay, I would recommend putting this policy into place, which just kind of lays out the certain steps, so we kind of do everything by the book.
I'll make that motion.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved and supported. Further comment? Hearing none, Ryan, please take the roll.
Counselor Keithley?
Yes.
Counselor Lehman?
Yes.
Counselor Carter?
Yes.
Counselor Marcus?
Oh, can vote on this?
Yes, this is just a policy.
Yeah.
Mayor Clarych?
Yes. Okay, now we're going to go on to the preliminary engineering report, water tower. I was assuming,
I would recommend tabling.
I'm having a hard time with that. And I'll tell you why I'm having a hard time, because we're trying to get some legislation to this year's legislation on this water tank. And I think we need to pass something on this, and I think we can discuss this just to move forward with approaching the legislature to do something with our water tower, in parentheses, whether it be another tank that we put up next to it or refurbishing the one we have. But I really think that we have to move forward on this, Ryan. And we all received the report. And once again, all I'm looking for is pretty much just, I'm just saying a motion to approve the preliminary engineering report and direct the clerk to work with engineer Jamnick, Gary Sirfendick, and Jeff Anderson in drafting Buhl's proposal for the applicable funding sources to take care of our water tank issues. And that's what I'm trying to do. We can have John Jamnick come to the next meeting and describe this to us, but I think we have to have this in hand to bring forth, to give to Gary to maybe get something introduced this year already. So that's where I'm coming from on that.
Yeah, and big picture for the council. Basically what this report does is kind of lays out our options and prospective costs for reconstructing, repairing, remodeling, putting in a new system. It gives us options for the water tower. It's something that the city is going to need to address within the next year or two. The mayor's motion doesn't decide what exactly we're gonna do, but with bonding applications due by June 1st, we should be, obviously the most cost-effective approach for the city is going to reconstruct that, rebuild it, so we don't have extensive maintenance costs down the road like we would with just a simple refurbishment of that tower or with that tower, so.
I have one question for you, John, a resident expert. What was presented here is different than what you've been researching, correct?
Yeah, that Kelly Evans from ISG is, I sent him a copy of John's
Okay.
report. He's gonna look into it, and just a little conversation we had, there was a lot of stuff in there that he said we didn't need.
And that's why I talked with Ryan prior to the meeting that
So
I know you were looking at something I thought was slightly different, and I value your opinion. I'd like to probably hear from him too.
So yeah, the 2 weeks wait, we should have some pretty, well, we should have two sides of it. Maybe even three if we have Glenn involved. So 2 weeks, I think is, yeah, let's wait, this table is till the next meeting.
Well, we got to vote on this motion though to move forward. We're not picking this,
We're not picking a way to go, we're just,
Yeah, just,
just to move forward legislative. Okay,
You're just, the council is essentially giving me authority to work with
yes,
the engineer, our consultants,
Yep.
to formulate our bonding application to, offset our city costs.
To be able to move forward to allocate money.
to get the best bang for the buck for the city of Buhl. What will work for us the best?
You said it better.
Because we have 3 or 4 options out there, and this will get narrowed down in the next couple of weeks. So, I made the motion. Was there support?
Stuart had support.
Okay, support by Stuart. I don't think we need too much more. We'll table this, that John can give us a report. John, hopefully you'll get some more info back, and we'll piece everything together. So, Ryan, please take the roll.
Councilor Kuechly?
Yes.
Councilor Lehman?
Yes.
Councilor Carter?
Yes.
Councilor Marcus?
yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes. Motion carried. Resolution 21-27, Stubler. Ryan, just want to give us a little brief overview here, please?
Another lot sale by Stubler, same terms as everybody else, 2 years to build that single-family home. This would leave 2 lots left.
That's great.
Yes. Make a motion to approve resolution 2127.
Is there support?
Support.
Support by Brandon. Further comment or question? Hearing none, Ryan, please take the roll.
Councilor Kuechly?
Yes.
Councilor Lehman?
Yes.
Councilor Carter?
Yes.
Councilor Marcus?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes. Okay, resolution 21-28, once again, Stubler. Ryan, just give us the highlight here, and then I'll ask
This
for a motion.
resolution authorizes the mayor and the clerk to execute the proper paperwork for the sale.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Brandon. Is there support? Support. Support by John. Further comment or question? It's routine. Hearing none, Ryan, please take the roll.
Councilor Kuechly?
Yes.
Councilor Lehman?
yes.
Councilor Carter?
Yes.
Councilor Marcus?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes. Next is the, okay, I didn't know, I wanted to clarify something, that's fine. The NEMMPA board appointment, there's going to be we're looking for a motion to designate Ryan Pervanzi as the city's representative to the NEMMPA. I believe, John, you had brought up, what's his first name?
Tony.
Tony Ward would represent us, and then we didn't know if there was going to be a fee, but it came out that he would want $50 an hour. And John, I think you're pretty clear on what Tony brings to us, what his experience was. I will say that I did follow up with our lobbyists, Gary Serpennik and Jeff Anderson, and what he recommended to me was that, we paid $1,000 to the group for, is it Dave Berg? Is he the guy that will be representing us?
Yeah.
Who's already been a consultant for us in the past, knows the ins and outs of the Buhl system as far as for rate studies and things of that nature. And I think has some experience in negotiating some of these contracts. He recommended that he believes that Ryan Pervenanzi should be our representative and our voting representative, that he should learn this while doing this, because then he can do this for the next how many years. And I followed Gary on that quite explicitly. I asked him a lot of questions. I also said that the first meeting's tomorrow at 11 a.m. And I'm going to be part of that also, just to see if that's something, if we do need help from Tony Ward, maybe we can always adjust that going down the road. But I'd like to see the first meeting, what goes on, what gets said, who's coming on. We also have Gary and Jeff that will be representing us if there's anything that happens. Gary was the lobbyist to put together a lot of this stuff, this NEMMPA group to negotiate. I remember he called 2 years ago, Ryan, did he call us? Year and a half ago?
Beginning of 2020.
Yeah, it was a while back, and I think that Tony Ward probably has a lot of information on that based on what Johnny told me about him, but Gary seems to think that we should have Ryan do that. I said, I'd like to learn a little bit more about this. I'll sit in on the meeting tomorrow too. And then if I feel that that's something that we need another set of eyes on the project, I'd have no problem bringing it back to look at Tony Ward. But at this point, I feel that we shouldn't. I think that we should appoint Ryan to be the voting member. I think he may have voting rights tomorrow. He may have to vote on some just procedural things, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So we should have a representative, and let's see how that goes. If that's something that Ryan feels he can handle, and I think it's something that he and I together could handle. John, you're always welcome to sit on with your knowledge of the city and the utilities. I don't have a problem with that, with the electrical. But I think to start with, I will make the motion to designate Ryan Pervenanzi as the city's representative to the NEMMPA.
I'll support.
Okay, supported by Stuart. Further comment? John, questions, concerns?
No, it's just wheeling and dealing with elite. They're not, I don't know what NEMPA is, why I don't know.
Well, we're gonna find out. That's the nice thing about that. It's
just that the language that elite will talk about, Tony understands. I still don't think Gary and Dave understand what would be presented, but you'll find out, I guess.
We'll find out in a hurry. Yeah, I don't discount that. Experts are nice, but at $50 an hour, I don't know, the meetings last 4 or 5 hours. I don't know. I mean, and how many are there going to be? Because this is a negotiation for several years.
There's only a couple meetings.
Well,
they come back and propose a rate, and you say, well, no, yeah, we can do this and we can't do that. Then they go back and they come back, and it's settled within a couple, 3 meetings.
In the past, but it's a new negotiation. There's all kinds of new.
That's the problem.
Well, that's.
You got money and people involved.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens. So.
Before it was just people.
What do you think, Ryan?
I mean,
how do you feel about it?
To start, I was, I haven't taken part in any power negotiations before. And a guy like Tony Warren, who's been there, done that, would bring a lot. But as a mayor, after I did sit in with that conversation with Gary, and I had a conversation with Dave Berg, and kind of how these negotiations are working, just for kind of the council perspective, is the NEMMPA basically designated, a negotiating team, which they're gonna bring back information to the rest of the group, to discuss and let us ask our questions, things like that. And I think for the time being, I am comfortable, because I do think there's a lot of people who are sitting on that board that, have worked with Buhl, know our interests, and let's face this, all the 15 members of this group, we're fighting for the same thing, and it's to negotiate the best deal for the residents of our communities. So I don't think there's gonna be a lot of back and forth, because Grand Rapids is getting this, Buell's gonna get pushed to the burner. It's not like that where we're fighting, individual interests, so to speak.
We're acting as a whole.
We're acting as a whole. So I think there's enough experts that are sitting on that board with, the heads of Hibbing, for example, which was our actual former rep from Minnesota Power, he's on that now, and a lot of others that have been doing this for longer than I have, obviously, but I think the mayor's right, it would be a good opportunity to learn for future negotiations as hopefully Buhl grows and we have a little bit more, not that we don't have a lot at stake, but maybe as we have more businesses or more residents to represent, that, you know, we at least are familiar with these negotiations and have someone in place that, you know, brings something to that conversation.
Well, and that experience may work in other areas too, you know.
I also think having somebody from the city, as Ryan being administrator on that board, I think it gives us a value or something.
And skin in the game.
Yeah. He can bring the information right back to us directly.
Yeah.
Also, it's,
We hope we get a report back. I mean, as he receives stuff from,
I mean,
it'll be interesting tomorrow. I'm looking forward to just to see
anybody.
what this is all about.
Yeah, I mean, and I think.
You're confident in it though?
I'm confident.
You like the idea?
Yeah, I mean, and, you know, the talk from, I mean, I did reach out to like Greg French in Virginia, ask questions. I mean, there are people, obviously, whoever has questions, whether it's a council or whether it's me as the representative, let me know, because there's people, if I don't know the answer, that I'll get it for you. And like I said, we hope to bring back something that's gonna benefit the residents a great deal for hopefully the next 10 years or however long that contract goes, and, you know, keeps the money essentially in their pockets. But yes, I am comfortable with it.
Okay, further comment? We have a motion, a second. Ryan, please take the roll.
Counselor Keithley?
Yes.
Counselor Lehman?
Yes.
Counselor Carter?
Yes.
Counselor Marcus?
Yeah.
Mayor Claridge?
Yes. Capital equipment financing, and that's right in front of us there for the fire truck and for the grader.
Just a quick overview for the council. Our financing is going to be through the First National Bank of Buhl. They've done a great job for us, you know, keeping interest rates low. That rate would be 1%, like it says. You know, and they did give us option, that same rate for 5 or 7 years. We did already kind of decide, we have those ambulance CDs, which we took out, you know, we had them in CDs, we took that out for that $200,000 down payment on the fire truck, which I believe our chief and assistant chief are going to pick that up on the 29th. They're going down there.
That truck's gonna get back in town by 30th.
Yeah. So, I mean, we do have that option for 5 years or 7 years on that. And then with the grader, kind of a variety of either 5 years or 7 years with different amounts of money down. As a reminder, we do have about $150,000 in our capital equipment fund for the street department. Upcoming purchases in the next, 5 to 7 years, 3 to 7 years, something like that would be another lawnmower, probably around 12,000, give or take, depending on what we're looking at, and then down a little further down the line, probably a new dump truck, kind of sander combination, something like that, which we would probably look more used or something like that. So those are the kind of what's coming down the pipeline, so to speak, outside of the grader.
Did you mention the fire hall expansion too?
I did not.
That's another one. We'll have a report on that next week.
Yes, there will.
So I mean, we're out there, but I think we're well situated now with equipment, things like that, and I think there's a plan out there that I like that, a purchase plan to stay current with everything that we have. So I'm open on this. I'd like the little bit longer term, to be honest with you, at least for the fire truck. And I'm open. I'm just open to discussion before we make a motion. I just like to see what the rest of the council feels like, or what they're leaning towards, or what you've had experience with.
Yeah, I don't think it hurts too, like on the grader end, if we went with the little lesser down payment to save a little more for emergency or whatever comes up,
And then down payment the next time we have to buy something.
Great.
Or, does the funding for the expansion of the fire hall come out of this?
For the fire hall, I mean, there is money in the ambulance fund. Obviously, there's some grant opportunities that are being made available quite soon for hopefully doing something with the fire hall and getting that. I did just get the report back from Architectural Resources just last night, I think. And then, that we're looking probably right around $250,000 for getting that space that they need, which is about where I thought about it, but I want to come back to the council to have a little bit longer discussion on that and kind of lay out some funding sources and hopefully grant dollars that could offset that should we move forward. The nice thing about some of the grant dollars coming available with money allocated through the federal government is they don't require a one-to-one match for the city. So, I'll do my best along with Gary and Jeff and everybody else to hopefully get the vast majority of that covered.
And they've given us some other resources outside of those to go to other little chunks of money too, so we'd like to knock that down as much as we can.
Well, I mean, should we be keeping that project in mind when we make these decisions here, is my question. No, I mean, what do you,
I agree.
looking at it financially, should we, like Paul was saying, I mean, the lesser down because we have another project on the table possibly.
At 1% interest,
That's wonderful.
you can't beat that, so
No,
I'd rather hang on to the money, the lower down payment. I mean, it's 1% is not that much on what we're looking at spending here, so I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Con. I think there's really not any difference going from the 5 to 7, especially with the interest rate remaining unchanged. So I think the longer term on especially the fire truck and the grader for that matter is, allows the city to have a little bit more flexibility if we have something come up that, hey, we can get some funds now and it's gonna be, reap benefits in the long run 5 years from now when we really have a lot of flexibility to put some more things into the community, whether it's the park, more in the park or whatever.
As well as the water, trying to factor on that, but like I said, we have two of the best lobbyists in the state that are working for us, and they're gonna leave no stone unturned, trying to get us other dollars to lessen any of the load that our taxpayers may have, or that we may have, period.
Especially when the money's there, we need to, especially for small cities, we need to take advantage of it and, maybe one bright spot out of COVID, especially for cities, across the country, not only in Minnesota, but right, wrong, or indifferent is the influx of federal dollars into these states that we need to use. So, and, Buhl's done a good job, this council, of reining in some things, but also having the flexibility that when the opportunity's right to do this without a major effect on our taxpayers to, put the needed improvements in town rather than waiting 10 years and, adding another $100,000 to the project.
Paul, did you have a motion, what you'd like to?
Do you want it all?
Sounds like you're getting.
I would do them separate.
Okay.
I'd make a motion to go with 7-year loan on the fire truck.
Is there support?
I'll support.
Support by Stewart. Further comment? Hearing none, Ryan, please take the roll.
Councilor Keithley?
Yes.
Councilor Lehman?
Yes.
Councilor Carter?
Yes.
Councilor Marcus?
Yes.
Mayor Clarich?
Yes. Now we'll go on to the grader. Paul, once
I'll
again?
make the motion to go with the 7-year, 75,000 down, for the grader loan.
Is there support?
Support.
Support by John. Further comment or discussion? Hearing none, all those Ryan, please take the roll.
Councilor Keithley?
Yes.
Councilor Lehman?
Yes.
Councilor Carter?
Yes.
Councilor Marcus?
Yes.
Mayor Clarich?
Yes. Okay, motion passed. Councilors' comments. Let's start with you, Paul. Work our way this way.
I guess the only thing I have is I know it's tough, no one wants their taxes, to pay any more than they have to, and it's kind of tough for us when you have people, some wanting, a certain project and others not, so kind of have to go with what you think the majority, cause that's kinda why we're here. Other than that, they really have nothing.
Okay, Stuart?
Only a Rams meeting this coming Thursday. I'll be taking part in that. That's about it.
Brandon?
Could I use my time to ask Ryan how we're looking at with, our park grant?
Yep, all of that was submitted for the DNR.
Okay, have you heard from them?
No, we will not hear till, I believe, early July on that. As far as some other opportunities coming up, the IEEE is gonna open up, I forget what it's called, but it's, something we could apply for the park, through a non-profit, and if the city could act as a fiscal agent, but we'll find, and I've been talking to the nursing home, the assisted livings, as well as seniors, using a combination of those groups to apply on behalf of the city to get a little bit more money in there. There is also some funds that are gonna be coming available through another CDBG, I believe, portion in the next couple weeks that are gonna deal with it's like COVID related, but expanding outdoor space that allows people to get outside during the pandemic kind of thing. There's guidance that I'm waiting to be issued on this that explains it better than I can right now. I get the emails that say, keep an eye out for this, so that's what I'm keeping an eye out for at this. But with a lot of the money that's still being funneled from the federal government to the states for COVID response and different projects, whether fire hall, park, whatever, the guidance hasn't been released on a lot of these things yet. The focus on releasing the guidance is for more utility bill help or mortgage help and things like that, but I expect in the next month or so that more programs will be available and more guidance will be issued, and then we can start formulating those applications based on their procedures.
Thank you.
Looking forward to seeing that one. I'm on that committee, so. John?
Well, I just don't know, well, just outside of my jurisdiction here, but we've never, when we did projects, it was always $25 a foot, and that was it. I don't know how you got this rolling into, to have different quotes or different prices. I mean, we went to 30%, it came to around $33, I don't know, it got rounded off to $35. Just leave it at that. I don't know why you drift away from adding these other expenses, this side, my side, your side, whose side. I don't know. That's all I got.
Okay. Well, I apologize, Council, for these mayor comments. It might be a little bit long tonight, and it will be a little bit longer. And this is more for the public. What I'm saying here, you are aware of all of this, what I'm going to talk about. But it seems like all things Buhl was lit up again about public utilities, and I just feel that I have to explain some things. It seems like that makes its rounds on the public utilities now and then. And we do send in our newsletter explanations for what some of the rates are and why they are. So I'm going to cover that a little bit tonight. And it just to clarify for the public. And then also, public, if you wish to know that there's a matrix that Ryan put together of some of the surrounding communities, what the average utility bill would be for the town with the rates on that. That is posted down in the post office on the area where we post our meeting minutes and things of that nature. It's highlighted in yellow. It's pretty interesting. So, but I'm just going to go off a little bit here, and then I just feel obligated to clarify utility costs and procedures and address the issue of Buhl utility rates compared to neighboring cities. The first issue to be clarified is that billings are based on consumption and associated fees added on by the county or the state or by state statute. Also, we need to realize that some costs are negotiated by the City of Buhl with other entities, such as Elite, Minnesota Power for electricity, and Waste Management for garbage. The sewer rates for the city have multiple factors that account for total bill including usage, operation, and maintenance costs, and debt service for the Central Iron Range Sanitary Sewer District, which was put in place several years ago before any of the, I don't know, some of you council members were probably on, John, you might have been on when that was formed, but once again, some things that we don't have control over. The debt service, which was approved by the previous council, will last until 2040 for the Central Iron Range Sanitary Sewer District, but remember, it upgraded what we had for our sewer system and things of that nature, so there's pros and cons on it. It's beneficial to us, it's just that we are stuck with that cost to pay off for the rebuilding of everything. Utility consumption is based on usage, which can vary based on the number of household members, the number of electrical devices needed to run a household, such as stoves, refrigerators, freezers, infrared heat, outdoor, porch, ground security, garage lighting, air conditioning or central air units, recreational expenses for electricity, for hot tubs, jacuzzis, swimming pools, both portable or fixed, or lawn sprinkling systems also increase utility costs. There are numerous ways Buhl residents can help control their utility costs, including but not limited to upgrading to a radio read meter, controlling consumption of water and electric, upgrading appliances and furnaces to more efficient models, converting to a natural gas furnace, proper home insulation, among others. There are programs offered by Minnesota Energy, Minnesota Power, and the AEOA that can assist residents with these associated improvement costs as well. Okay, here are the charges that are on your utility bill. Remember now, we moved to a full-page printout so we get everything. Before on the little card, a lot of things were cut off or they didn't get everything. But I'm just going to explain real quickly for the public what some of these are and what the costs are. Water. This billing is based on consumption. A major increase was approved by a previous council prior to my coming on board, and it would have had to be done based on a consultant that went into effect at the end of 2018. Okay? That's there. I still think the water rates are pretty reasonable, but it's based on consumption, your meter that runs it through. Sewer. This is for usage on the sewer, and that's based on your water bill. So once again, they kind of go hand in hand. Refuse or garbage. The fee that is passed on from waste management, it's a fee per household that's negotiated with the city, and that's passed on to the residents. Electric, the base charge of $5 for operation and maintenance to replace damaged poles, lines, plus then also it's included on your usage, your individual usage in your home. The water test fee. The water test fee, this is a state fee that we must remit to them quarterly. We don't have any say in that. That's a number that's given to us that we must remit. The fuel adjustment charge. This change is monthly and set by Minnesota Power to all residents based on usage for their cost of doing business. Once again, out of our hands. Some of these are passed on to us automatically. It has nothing to do with your consumption. The capital improvement, that's a standard fee that everyone pays for physical and capital improvements within the city. And I think that's $1, Ryan? A month. The solid waste management tax, that's a solid waste management tax. It's a tax on the refuse service set by the state. Once again, we have no control over that. That is passed on to us. Also, the solid waste service fee. This is a county fee that we must remit to them quarterly that is standard for every household. So other groups are tacking on user fees, taxes to us that have nothing to do with your utilization personally, but we as a city are assessed that we do as a pass-through to you on your bill. The sewer service fees for debt and operations of the Central Iron Range Sanitary Sewer District that was passed on by the previous council to fund the construction of the CRSSD plant that's located between Buhl and Chisholm. So once again, and that's the one that goes till 2040, I believe. Okay, a tax fuel adjustment. Tax on fuel adjustment that is state mandated. Once again, we have no control over it, just like the previous fee that we've done. Sales tax on electric that is state mandated and is different for every household that is based on consumption. So that's a state tax that's based on your consumption of your electricity in your home. And that will rise and fall by the consumption that you're using every month. This non-radio meter reading. It's a surcharge only for those residents that have not converted over to an electric radio read meter. So that's something that the city did many years ago. Once again, before I was on the council, I don't know if there's a charge to do that, but some people still have where they're read and then they are charged. I think it's $20 a month, Ryan?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's fairly expensive, but the radio read meter is $400, $500, so it would pay itself off in a couple of years, but that's up to each individual household to determine do they want to move forward with that, so. Okay, once again, like I said, we posted this information in our city newsletter several times over the past 2 years. Much information is covered in the city newsletter, and I highly recommend everybody read the city newsletter because it also has a lot of information on what are the issues before the city council and how the mayor and council are evaluating and addressing those various issues. So it's kind of a look into our eyes and to our soul of what are some of the issues that are before the city council, and it's in this newsletter that goes out several times a year. I highly recommend reading that, okay? As a reminder, our utility customers are now receiving a full-page bill instead of the postcard due to changes at the post office beyond our control. The city also offers paperless billing and online automatic payments. In addition to the standard forms of payment, information is available on the website www.cityofbuhlmn.com or by calling City Hall at 218-258-3226. In an upcoming mayor's comments, I will just provide an update on the construction project that is scheduled to resume shortly. There's a meeting tomorrow already, so hopefully we'll be getting information. You'll start seeing some things happening in the very near future. I also wish the city, with the help of our local legislators, especially Gary Sirtvanek, who's put forth through the Senate a bill for $1.5 million to offset some of these costs for us in the long term. So that's really helped. Julie Sanston also, as our House of Representatives member, helped as much as she could on the House side of that. We did get it passed. It needed both houses. So we get another. Senator Thomasoni had to introduce the legislation, and so that's a positive thing. We're moving forward. So construction season is here. That's all I have. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Stuart. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Brandon. Ryan, please take the roll.
Councilor Keithley.
Yes.
Councilor Lehman.
Yes.
Councilor Carter.
Yes.
Councilor Marcus.
Yes.
Mayor Tharsh.
Yes, meeting adjourned.